Heimerdinger for me tended to be one of the most fun and interesting characters in Arcane. His design gives an idea he's going to be just a goofy character, meant to be used to lighten the mood by acting funny and cute. However, he's written to be a lot more serious. When it comes to absorbing new information or confronting certain situations, he takes it incredibly seriously. There's a no-nonsense attitude come from the guy, expecting things to remain the same, in his own definition of the good old times. Basically a boomer. This wouldn't be a character without some complexity. This mindset is rooted with the fear of the arcane, taking zero chances or heavily supervised when conducting upon it, having a difficult time understanding why people want to change so much or conduct with this stuff, knowing how dangerous it is. However, he fails to drill this information due to being an immortal creature, not being able to understand the mortal minds of man. He's a serious, complex character, honestly acting as a good contrast to his design, effectively used throughout Season 1. And then we come to Season 2, and you know I'm not going to be talking about him in a favorable light. The layers that made this character become interesting were stripped, reducing him down to just being a goofy character, having no agency in his story. There's a clear plot point throughout Season 2 that Heimerdinger would have been heavily invested in the story but was tossed aside. That being the council attack and the situation between Zahn and Piltover. During this time he spent with Echo and his people having some character development. You'd think Heimerdinger hearing what happened would have showed up and checked if Jace or any of his friends or in the council are fine. No, I guess no one told him in the sanctuary, despite this news would have spread like wildfire, and this information would have been important for him. Instead, for some reason, they needed to create an excuse for Heimerdinger to visit Jace, being that the tree in the sanctuary providing fresh air for the people was somehow poisoned, so he goes to Piltover to ask for some help. It's one of the most contrived and forgettable plot story I've seen done. There was no need to create an excuse why Heimerdinger would have come back to Piltover. If the reason they need Echo to tag along, just come up with a reason why he's going with him. Especially since they don't explore this plot, it doesn't get brought up after this episode, and they're never going to touch this again because the season is over. But let's just pretend that maybe he didn't hear one of the biggest travesties in Piltover. Alright, how do you think he will react coming back to Piltover?
Nothing!
Let's see through his perspective. He was kicked out of the council for being too conservative. However, he comes back and every possible concern comes to reality. His friends are dead, there's going to be a war, and Victor is fused with a nuclear reactor and is now walking around Piltover and Zahn. God only knows what the hell he's going to be doing. Heimerdinger will be going through so many different emotions. Anger, distraught, or at least devastated, but no, instead he reacts like nothing happened. It's the same situation with Jace. There's a lot of chaos happening in the city. The person who will be the most interested is the guy who founded the very city he's living in. Okay, maybe, just maybe, he'll at least participate in the plot, right? Like surely they won't just have him disappear throughout the rest of the story, wasting centuries of his time in the multiverse universe playing the guitar, right? Yeah, they pretty much do all of that. Pretty much Heimerdinger spent his time waiting for Echo and just accepted his fate staying there, even though he should be extremely troubled and worried and desperately trying to get back. When Echo eventually does come to the dimension he's at, he pretty much tells Echo to do the same in accepting his fate. The excuse being that there's no possible way they could ever return since the Arcane never was invented. And when Echo does manage to regain some samples of the Arcane, Heimerdinger says it's too risky and it's highly improbable. I do not understand why they're constantly making this character reinforce the idea not to return despite being one that should be agreeing with Echo in going home. What's funny was that it was possible for them to build a device to return home, so all that complaining from Heimerdinger was just procrastination. Again, I do not quite understand why they couldn't run Heimerdinger was trying to build a machine to return home. However, he needed additional help from Echo. Just give this character something to do, which he does, but a small price being his life. As they are in the process of going home, of course something will go wrong, being that they forgot to plug in a damn cable. This seemingly simple task that is incredibly important, somehow these two brilliant characters forgot to do. This oversight had massive consequences because Heimerdinger needed to fix it, resulting in him dying. What an absolutely stupid way to kill off a character over a simple task, but to me, this was just a way to get rid of the poor Yordle. I honestly can't tell whether the writers just don't like Heimerdinger, don't know what to do with his character, or just don't have a time to do anything with him, but just like a multiple choice question, is D all of the above? If they do care about the character, they'll at least manage to get him involved in the story that aligns with his character. No, instead they stripped every layer that made him interesting, with his agency in the story being less to a peanut. This idea is reinforced to me because after his death, they didn't even have a single character remember him by making a mural or a statue for him. I mean, for God's sake, they made a little girl with the personality of a stool who doesn't say a word have more screen time and be more involved in the story than Heimerdinger, a League of Legends champion. Like, did someone in the game kill you 10 times by this character constantly taunting your corpse every time? That seems more plausible because this character was written so poorly in the story. There is so much for this character to do. He didn't at the very least have a chance to even speak with Victor once. It's upsetting seeing how wasted this character was. Season 2 just did him dirty because it was seemingly his story. Now it's over, doing nothing of importance but plugging in a stupid cable. I know the idea that he could still be alive, but the concept of character's death is so dead where you can have them be blown to smithereens or be drenched in bullets and someone would still say, yep, he's still alive. Honestly, having him return won't accomplish anything since all the things that would expand his character and made him more interesting is gone now. So the way they wrote him is honestly better that he remains dead. Thanks for watching, and I'm just gonna drink myself to sleep.